you're going to die. Not for many, many years, but two things you can't avoid in life are death and taxis, which I've never understood, because if you don't go near roads, taxis can't come anywhere near you. It's taxes, isn't it? Death and taxes you can't avoid. So I set up an episode to help us all prepare for death. This is the strangest intro I think I've ever made, but I'd like to introduce somebody called Oscar. And Oscar really knows his stuff. And if you think you've heard all about estate planning and why it's so important in the past, this story is going to surprise you, because it certainly surprised me. Let's do it. So, Oscar, I've been running my business for many years, and I figure if something really unfortunate happens to me, then the business can just carry on, can't it? There's nothing I've got to prepare, is there?
Well, I mean that's a great question. That's probably a misconception of that business continues to go without you. There's a couple of what I call end of life documents that you need, which means like estate planning, right?
Uh,
And I'll tell you that what I could tell you is I think the best example that I can give you of an estate planning documents is of the family, Pedro's family, and he came to us and we created an estate plan. And once we created an estate plan, it's something that you think yet you'll always have in your mind that what how can I make it better, because our software gives you unlimited updates. And I'll tell you Pedro's story real quick that'll give you a better idea of that your business will can outlive you if you prepare for it. And what I
That's
mean by that is Pedro always said, "Hey, you know what? He had a small bakery in Los Angeles, and his business was, he always complained about his kids never wanting to get involved with the business ever. And he said, one if they grew, we have such a large family, we're so united, but we just never just don't do it. So what I did is we curated an estate plan for him and his business, and we got him what's called key person insurance.
mhm.
And then I said, so the legacy now the limitations to an estate plan is the limitations to your imagination to leave your kids the instructions of what to do. Like I always tell people, what if you died today, do your kids know what to do tomorrow? Right?
It's a good
So
question. I just want to make clear at this stage, dear listener, dear viewer, Oscar and I have prepared for this episode, of course. And one of the things it's worth noting is almost everything, if not absolutely everything, that Oscar is going to share with us today is just as relevant in the UK as it is in the USA.
yes,
So,
and I can tell you, we our software is approved in all 50 states. However, I could tell you this. Oh, so let me go back to Pedro's story because
sorry, I
this is
want to hear
it's an
Pedro. Yeah.
yeah, this is an amazing story. So one of the things that, and I go back because one of the things that when he started his estate plan, it was simple. It was a simple thing, and then he said, Oscar, I want to start making changes to my estate plan for my business. What do I do? And I said, that's a great question. I said, let's start with the end in mind. If your kids died today, what would you tell them? And what would be the instructions? He goes, well, I'm a terrible writer. And I said, great. Why don't you just record them? Put a camera up and just
Mm,
tell them. And he goes, what do I tell them? I said, tell them this. Tell them what to do every day when they show up to work. Tell them how you make the bread and why you make it that way. And then tell them your philosophies and your thoughts, and tell them what your dreams would be if you could do anything in the business, what you would like it to have come. 3 years later, he passes. After we started, and after he passed, he got key. He one of the things that we got once, because we called those standard operating procedures, what to do in every step of the way. And I think it was up like 300 videos as he ended up
oh,
making.
wow.
Yeah, he went in depth, and he was so passionate about about it that he started to get excited. And I said, "Man, you should put them on YouTube." He goes, "No, no, this is just for my family. I only want them to see it." And I said, "Okay, that's fine." So one of the things that we did is, so I said, "Well, then you know what? How are you going to fund this big dream with them, and how are you going to do it? And he goes, I want to get what's called he asked me to find an insurance. We found an insurance policy that's called key person insurance. I don't know if it's
Mhm.
available in the UK.
Oh no, it's a thing here, and here it's 100% tax deductible. So if you're a business owner and you get
Yeah,
key person insurance, 100% tax deductible. You
yeah,
get it's free insurance.
yeah. And so once he got the key insurance, and I said, okay, that only works if you leave the instructions. You got to get into it. So we started talking about SOPs. We started dreaming, and he goes, I can't sleep. I'm doing all this. So, anyways, 3 years pass, and the kids come to me and say, "Hey, Dad left this estate plan, but it says that we can only use the money to run the business." I said, "Yeah, that's your father. I remember your father saying that specifically because he wanted it for the business." He goes, "So
Mm.
we can't do it. So what do we do?" And I said, "Well, I recommend you start by watching the videos he left, right? I mean, you have two choices. One, hire somebody, or two, you do it."
Mm.
They now have a factory in Los Angeles with 17 vans delivering bakery goods all over.
So
It's a
it
multi-million
grew.
dollar, yes, and it went from a 800 square foot bakery to a factory. And
I,
that was all because they had an SOPs, and I, every time we talk to them, they're like, "You know what? I don't we never knew all of the things that this business could do until my grandfather. It's his grandkids that are actually running it." And it was because he left he took the time and left a comprehensive, detailed plan on his dream. And I think to this day, he's probably in his grave going, "Why didn't these kids do it when I was alive?" But he's probably, up there going like, "You know what? This is amazing." And I'm going to tell you, it's only because he took the time and wrote it out into an estate plan. Now, watch, if you leave your kids a $1.5 million, they're going to go out and buy a car if you don't put restrictions, right? They're going to go out and not build the business. So he said one of two things. One, hire somebody to keep the business running, and this should be enough money. Or two, you do it.
mm.
Kind
The
of
thing I like.
basically in a nutshell.
thing I like about this is that I think some people are quite squeamish about talking about end of life preparations, but it has to be done because there's lots of really awful stories about people who didn't prepare. But the thing I like about this story is that for anyone who starts making SOPs, start writing down how the business works, it actually makes the better business immediately. It's not just kind of preparing for, well, if I die, because as soon as you start looking at the frameworks that you've created, you can see holes in it. So I imagine this guy, when he was making his 300 videos, he must have stopped halfway through some of those videos and gone, that's how we're going to solve that problem. Because as soon as you say something out loud, this is the part I really like about this story. As soon as you say something out loud, it activates a part of your brain that's normally kind of dormant. So not only is this is such a brilliantly unintended positive consequence of estate planning, Oscar. I really like it.
Well, but you know what? But it all depends. I think it's, when I talk at it, and I always say it's estate planning, because see, most people think that estate planning is for the wealthy.
Right.
Most people have the misconception in the US that a will's enough, and it's not. And most people think that estate planning is only to avoid probate. And what I mean by that is that they think that it's only to keep the government from deciding on what happens to your things when you die. Um, but it's not. But I always tell people this: look, there's two things that are guaranteed. I know in the U.S., I don't know about much about the U.K. law, but I'm sure, I think our tax came from the U.K. So we definitely have two things, right? One, we always say one is guaranteed. Is one, you're gonna pay tax no
Hmm.
matter what. Whether when you die, or that's the one thing, is that we're all gonna pay tax, and two, we're all gonna die someday.
Death and
And
taxes, the two things you can't avoid.
yeah. And so then I always say, listen, you might as well enjoy it through the process. And if you have a small business, an estate plan is essential to the longevity and the legacy of your business. And it's something that should be taken, not taken lightly, but taken to the nth degree and put in what you, and I think it's like anything else, right, Andrew? We always take out, we can only withdraw from what we have deposited. And that being either time, effort, or resources, we can't withdraw more than what we've deposited. And I think that Pedro is taking dividends, man. He is getting paid big dividends right now because of all, and now he's probably changed legacies of life, like generational wealth, that because he took that time to make those deposits into those SOPs or those videos. I mean, I'd love to see them. So I've always, every time I go, I said, dude, are you guys ever going to share those videos? And they're like, some we can, but a lot of it is, it was him pouring his heart out about, what he wanted. And I was like, wow, dude, I'd love to see. I mean, that'd be like, you just never know what he said to make them light a fire underneath them.
This is like movie script stuff, Oscar. It really is. The more you think about it, the more depth there is to it. So,
you know what I thought about is, have you guys ever seen the movie Brewster's Millions? Yeah, that's exactly what I thought about when I was right now, when you said this is like a movie. I said, is there? Yeah, but except that he had to spend the money, right?
Well, but also the other really nice sort of non-business thing is that, when somebody passes away, there's always memories left and whatever. And if you're like my father has written his history, his autobiography. He said, this is for you to read when I die. And I said, can I not read it now? Because now I can talk to you about it. But that means, Pedro's family have hundreds of videos anytime they want to kind of reconnect. And it's him at his most passionate, him talking about something that meant so much to him. So there's so many lovely angles to this. It's not just a business thing. I think on an emotional, personal level, it's just great. We're going to have to wrap it up soon, Oscar. But if somebody is listening to this and thinking, oh my goodness, I need to make a start with this, I have not thought about these things, what do you recommend as their first step?
I think the first thing is
contact you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the first thing is you need to find somebody that can build out a comprehensive living trust in your country, and make sure that your plan, the first steps is to write it out. And then once you have it, I think the most important thing is not only finding somebody, but the most important thing is to make sure that you have a updates, and then you could update it, because once you create an estate plan, it's going to be like the rock in your shoe, and you're going to always know that it exists. And if you could do updates, the longer you live, the more updates you're going to have on it. That's the first thing. The second thing is, if you're in the US and you want a comprehensive a living trust at an affordable cost, visit us at estate.prep.com. And if you are thinking about it and you want a comprehensive living trust guide, you can go to estate.prep forward slash, estate.prep.com/guide and get a free comprehensive guide that'll eliminate the human delay of creating an estate plan, because that is a whole story all in itself. What happens when the human delay comes into fact.
Human delay, what a phrase. Okay, we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you ever so much for your time, Oscar, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, thank you to Oscar Vasquez for that. I mean, when you saw the title for this episode, is that the way you thought it would go? This was originally planned to be a quite serious talk about estate planning and how important it is for legacy and just looking after your family. But the reality is, it turned into this brilliant story about how one person preparing for death, at some point, went through this fantastic journey to build a business that, well, when he did sadly die, his family took and ran with and grew. What a great story. I hope you enjoyed this. This is slightly different from the usual kind of marketing or digital or AI or SEO type episodes that we do, but I think it would be a good idea to start looking at other aspects of business growth. So if there's something around this area something non-marketing but very important to business growth and amplifying your business, please get in touch and let me know. Right, well, thanks again to Oscar. Make sure you visit his website in the link, whether you're in the UK, USA, Australia, Uzbekistan, wherever. So all remains to me to say is please like, subscribe, and tell all your friends.